Hi. Ah, I can't. There has been a snag. Wait, I can't see most of you. Suddenly everything's blanked out. Oh yeah, we'll have to start again. Can you people hear me?
Yes.
Yes. It just blanked out all of a sudden. Abhi वापस आ गया. Okay, fine. So again, start. Hello everyone. Welcome to this wonderful session of women voices and unconventional themes. I am your co-panelist, Dr. Khushboo Shah, and with me we have Dr. Tripti Sharan, Sajita Nair, and Aneeta Sharma. All remarkable women who have all managed to get their voices heard and have done it by writing about unconventional themes. So let us get the session started with our introductions. I will introduce myself. I am Dr. Khushboo Shah. I'm an eye surgeon. I specialize in glaucoma and I practice in Vadodara, Gujarat. I'm also an author and a spoken word artist. I was on the shortlist of the Asian Review Prize for 2024 and am on the long list for the Commonwealth Prize for Short Fiction 2025. My debut novel, The Mildly Chaotic World of Chi Kenny, was written on a highly unconventional theme. Uh, it is a dystopian satire which is targeted at the dairy industry, and it explores this industry through scathing satire and whimsical characters and puns and absolutely out of the box thinking. Um, this book released in November last year, and within 4 months, it has gone for a reprint. And I'm extremely thankful to my readers for supporting such an unconventional topic and letting a woman's voice be heard in such a loud manner. I am so thankful to all of you. And isn't this what this session is also about? So let us start with the other panelist of ours, Dr. Tripti Sharan.
Hi, thank you, Khushboo. So, well, I must thank the organizers for, having this platform where we can all come and talk about things that we feel so much about, isn't it? And it's a common concern with all of us. And we do want to bring the voices of women from across the country to the people of this country. So, I am Dr. Tripti Sharan. I'm a gynecologist and obstetrician at BLK Max Hospital, New Delhi. In our hospital, we are doing, all kind of high risk cases, surgeries, this, that, and we have teaching also. But then I always say that when I'm not writing, I'm not sorry, practicing in the hospital, I write just to, heal my soul, rejuvenate my soul. I think we all need that. So in 2016, I came up with my first book. This was Chronicles of a Gynecologist. It was published by Bloomsbury. And first books are generally, I would say, even if you are writing fiction to an extent, it's autobiographical for majority writers. So this book was about, as a gynecologist, I lived amongst women. So this was a kind of went out thing for me. Maybe as we go further, I can explain more. But it was like, all the stereotypes, the misogyny that you see in the society, in the closed clinic spaces, when we see people in their vulnerable condition, they kind of share a lot with you and they tell you so much. So my first book was nonfiction, The Chronicles of a Gynecologist, and then as a doctor, we can never forget our training days, our MBBS days, our PG days. We can never grow out of it. I know Khushboo can relate to what I'm saying. So my next book was House of Doctors. This is my brush with the Obs and Gynae department from my UG and PG days. Chronicles was about women's stories. This was a doctor's story, and in here there is a lot of, it's at places it is serious, but most of the times it's about how medical students are living every day of their lives, pushing all frontiers, having a blast in the hospitals which have even at times not even clean corridors, a very redundant infrastructure, but we've had our best lives there. So this was my tribute to my medical college and also to my friends and the gang that we lived with. So this was my second nonfiction, and it was with Readomania. This was in 2018. In between, I came up with one a collection of verses, Shadows of a Fading Twilight. This one. It's a collection of verses. And then again, I came with one very beautiful book, which is Being Radha. It is a very, very beautiful. I say that in spite of being an author of this book, that it's about the goddess Radha telling her story to Krishna. It's in her voice, and I'm very fortunate that in today's world, verses don't sell much, but this has gone for the second and third reprint, and it's been doing amazingly well. And for most, like even for me, when I'm reading this, whenever I feel low, I start reading this. And then mythology is something which is again my second passion, other than writing for women and doctors. And that too, they're also very women centric. I came with another of my book. You remember Khushboo, this Devis and Divas. Again, very powerful for women living in the modern world, sharing the same stories as the revered goddesses. I made them live in the modern world and understand whether the struggles, trials, and tribulations of women have changed over the so many eras. And recently, I came with this book just a month back. This is Ras Leela. Again, the story of Radha talking to her Krishna, but here Radha is not actually the Radha. She's a modern woman taking up new roles, telling her eternal God Krishna how things have changed about the world that he's made. It's her viewpoint. It's about so many issues that we commonly face. So that was about my books. Other than that, I love music. I love to sing. I'm trying to sing. I'm trying to dance. These are my hobbies. I love to swim also. And I do write my own blogs. I'm a columnist with NDTV every time, every life counts. I used to be there. Now I'm not writing much there, but I still do write the Better India and many other, such webzines and columns where places where I'm writing. So that's about me. I would now invite Aneeta to tell us about herself. Over to you, Aneeta.
Thank you, Tripti. Well, starting off with an introduction, I think the best word I can use for myself is I'm an educator and an unconventional one in the sense that I've been teaching three subjects: English, maths, and science, a wide range. And if I look back at my teaching career, I have taught students from kindergarten right up to class 12. So that has also been an amazing experience. And I have taught across the length and breadth of this country. I've taught in Leh, where the children were first generation learners and did not understand a word of Hindi or English. And I obviously did not know Ladakhi. Yet we communicated. So that has been my educational journey, my journey as an educator. And then I again did a very unconventional thing. I gave it all up. After about 20 odd years of working as a teacher, I had a nice secure job, a good pay packet. And then suddenly I decided, no, this is not for me. I want to write. And I just took that decision, a very risky one, just giving up everything. And I wanted to start writing. I had no clue that somebody will publish me in the first place, but I wanted to write. And this happened in 21. And since then, I've been writing, I've been blogging, I've written short stories, I've done bilingual poetry. The first book, incidentally, since we are sharing this platform with two doctors, my first book was a contemporary fiction, and the main protagonists are doctors. It was titled
Wow.
it was titled Home Run. And after that, I did a collection of poetry. And then finally, the bunker got hold of my hand and he steered me towards this murder mystery. He picked up my first book, The Dalhousie Murders. And since then, I've been bumping off people. And I figure there's no end to it. So I can go on relentlessly. That is about me. And I'll pass on the baton to Sajita now.
Hi,
Over
good
to you.
evening to, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Aneeta. Good evening to all of you, and such wonderful introductions you all gave. Very impressive. So now something about myself. I am Sajita Nair. I'm a writer and former army officer. I've published three novels and a collection of short stories. My first novel, She's a Jolly Good Fellow, was about women officers in the army. The second one, The Army Officer's Wife and Other Short Stories, was again set in the armed forces because my dad served in the Air Force. I served in the Army myself, and my husband served in the Navy, so I have got that kind of a background. The third book, The Search, was about adoption and aimed at young adults. And the latest one, The Grand Matriarch of Malabar, is a story set in Kerala. And it is about the matrilineal system of Nairs of Kerala. Apart from these, I've also written for various newspapers and other publications. I've written opinion pieces and essays in travelogues. And one of my short stories has been included in the syllabus, BA English syllabus of the University of Kerala. And two of my novels have been longlisted for awards. Well, that's about me. And I'm based in Bengaluru.
That is lovely, Sajita. So yes, you have a very impressive background and then your own achievements as well. I would love to read.
I think all of us too.
I would love to read. So what you mentioned about the first book about
She's
Lady
a jolly
Officer.
good fellow. She's a jolly good fellow.
I will pick that up. That sounds like an amazing topic
So
to
nice,
write about.
thanks.
I would definitely like to pick it up. So, okay, let us start with the topic for today. It is called Women's Voices and Unconventional Themes. So let us first start with what has been our inspiration for it. All of us have been writing about unconventional themes. So what has been our inspiration, or what was that one unconventional piece of writing, or probably an unconventional character that you came across? It could also be what you have come across recently and which has struck you as being remarkable. I'll start off with me. I was very recently reading a much celebrated book called Lessons in Chemistry. And I love the book. The book is fairly popular. And what struck me was the topic. It is about the kind of injustice women in STEM, women in science have been facing for centuries, especially in the last 1 century. Ever since science really gathered momentum, if we would say that, and about how many voices of women have been muted, and about this one particular woman who is such a powerful personality in herself, who does not, give in to the norms of the society, does not give in to the regular norms of the scientific society. One would think that a scientific society would have a very rational way of thinking, but the writer very correctly, Bonnie Garmers very correctly points out that even within the scientific committee, there is a hierarchy, and there is a fixed way of doing things, and there is a presumption that women will bring in some amount of sluggishness with them. There will be some amount of delay in their body of work just because of the biological clock, and because they will have kids, or they'll get married, or they'll have social responsibilities. And then I'm sure it must have been all our experience of all of us, and all of us belong to diverse fields. This kind of attitude does prevail in the society even today. Even today, when women are raring to go and we are discussing pay parity, even now these things do hold true. So this particular work about writing about women in science and the injustice which comes out of fixed ideas, and about how to break the glass ceiling every single time. This idea struck me as a very unconventional one, even though it is riding on the feminist wave, the current wave of feminist literature, which is extremely popular right now. But choosing to write about women in science, and the way it is written, the leading character is made in such a remarkable way, it really impressed me a lot. And I decided to dig this up and find out all the other instances where women have been wronged, and perhaps pen a piece on that. So that has been my experience. Tripti, what do you say? Dr. Tripti?
Sorry.
Is Dr. Yes. Yes.
So, Khushboo, I very well relate to what you're saying to an extent. And, coming to me, as I said, that the topic is, women's voices today. It's about women's voice. Now, around me, I see women sometimes in pain, sometimes shout. We say women are screaming, women are fighting, women are sometimes in wars. They are, speaking very brazenly, sometimes quietly suffering. I see women all around, but strangely, I don't see the voice of women. That is something very different. Like you have given them the right to speak, but you do not hear their voices. So for me, it was like all accumulated inside in my first book that I wrote, which I say is my went out book against the system. I won't say there was a single incident that triggered it. Over the years, we all have our own sensitivities. There are things that we feel, very touched upon by, very inspired by. For me, it was their woman. I could never forget the first courtroom. My first chapter is about the rape victim. There was this woman who had died after getting raped over the trial years. And I had gone as the expert witness, as a doctor. You cannot imagine the trauma you face in the courtrooms, even as an expert witness. And I ended up, I was literally, that statement was taken out of me. I cannot go into details like whether the rape was committed or not, yes or no. So it is something like, if you've seen the movie Damini, you're too young for that, Khushboo. I don't know whether you've seen that movie. But the torture was something like that. And I always felt guilty about it. And there was other stories also about a widow who had a broomstick inserted inside her vagina for an abortion. Probably it was incestuous, and she dies. There's similarly so many stories about a school girl about 10, 14 being referred to the surgical wards and then being sent from there and just coming and delivering. Stories of domestic use, abuse, about perversions, things that we don't talk about. So they had kind of all stayed in their mind, and I wanted people to understand. One of my I came across a feminist, and she said that she thought that she had heard it all, seen it all, but when she read the book, she found it gut wrenching. So I mean, all the stories are not about, that about the, I would say, the tragic parts. There are stories where women themselves are perpetrators of violence, because even women can do patriarchy. It's not only men who do that. So there are stories on them also. So in nutshell, it was everything that I could, see and feel around me, with around my patients who come and tell stories about their lives. I kind of get a sneak view into their lives. So I felt I had to share that. And same went on with House of Doctors. So it was in a lighter vein. It was more about medical students. But what is very surprising is that we think that, being a doctor is like a very of course, doctors are very empowered people, female doctors, all gynecologists, everybody is an empowered woman. But they themselves suffer a lot of sexism, even in medical colleges. So when you read this book, you will understand the House of Doctors, that in spite of all the fun and everything that goes in amongst college students, you can find that streak of, sexism running there. The way, I remember in my gynae wards, like patients would come always call us sister. Doctor's wife is always Dr. Nee, but a female doctor is a sister. As a young student, I would react. Now I have left it. There's no point, fighting over it. And then we would prepare a patient for surgery, and they would think that our job was just delivering. A female has to only deliver. She cannot do. Surgeon would be a male doctor.
Yes.
So, and inside the, within the community also, even among the faculties and all, there is this sexism which is there, part of our medical industry also. We are not that, it's not that we are very educated, we are financially independent, so we are not part of it. We are also part of it. So somewhere along the line, these were the things. And then, came COVID. COVID was one time which was different for everyone. It's a period that we don't want to go back, but for us doctors, it was very, very revealing. What we suffered was something very different as a professional also. So I came with another book of mine. This was Anecdotes and Antidotes. This I came during the COVID time. It is not only about COVID, it's a short story collection. It is the voice of a mother, voice of a wife, voice of a one who's raising adolescent kids. And I mean, it's about a friend. At places, I would be a doctor. Just a couple of stories. At places, I would be the girlfriend. At places, I would be the wife, a mother. So, as a friend. So, we have different shades of women. So I try to bring that out. There is one story in that this is love in COVID times. It's a very, very interesting story. It is nothing tragic, nothing. And the book is not at all tragic. In spite of dealing with COVID, the stories are, at places very comedy. It is the kind of WhatsApp discussions we used to have amongst doctors during the COVID times. Most of us not working that much, the same level, but yes, spending our time. That's like everyone gardening, WhatsApping, cooking, exercising. That is what most of us were doing and dividing our work, working less, of course. So it was about that. And then came mythology. I think I was telling you, Khushboo, in our last talk that we had that as a 10-year-old, I don't think it was you, it was Anupa. So when I was 10-year-old, the first mythology book that I wrote, it was in our course curriculum, it was Ramayana. And I remember, crying a lot when I read. I did not cry for him at all. Did I tell you?
Yes. About, yes, you absolutely
I
told.
didn't even cry for Sita, the way she was kidnapped, kept in Lanka. I cried for the girl Sita who got married. And once she was married, once that Kanyadan was done, there is no mention absolutely in the whole book about her family, about her father. And I was so surprised that so many things happened to her and he never comes. So as a 10-year-old girl, I felt that this is what life is, that once you get married, your parents
You're
and they have no say in your life. And I was absolutely disgusted by that. Till date, I hate that word, somewhere it rankles. So I hate that word Kanyadan. It means giving up on your child. It may not be right, absolutely right, but what I'm saying that when we read these books, what sinks in you? And so that is why I wrote this book. All these mythology books, even being Radha, when I wrote, being Radha, Devis and Divas, and Raslila. Now, there's so many people who ask me, why did you write about Radha? I did not write about Radha because I wanted to talk about love and longing she has for Krishna. My idea was that, for majority women in our country, their central role is always motherhood. It is motherhood that brings a woman to my clinic most of the times, but it is a woman who inspires me to write. So same comes in mythology. Most of our god and goddesses, they are worshipped in the role of mother. But here was Radha. She was a different, she is worshipped as a Bal Sakhi. She will play with God. She will, look beautiful to God. She will get jealous. She will fight with him. She will crib, and then she will make up beautifully. So I wanted to bring that aspect, of being a friend, being a Balsaki. And I did not want to always talk about mother, mother, mother. I have nothing against mothers, don't take me otherwise. But I feel that somehow it has taken away a lot from women.
Yes, that has been often spoken about. Yes.
So I did not want to talk on that aspect. And what we can give them any role about wealth, like knowledge to Saraswati, wealth to Lakshmi, power to Durga. But ultimately, we worship them in a role as a mother. There is a deep meaning behind it, but for common people, they are all mothers, isn't it? So I wanted to bring some other aspect, and that is why I came up with these roles. And even with the,
yeah, each of your book talks about, in a way, talks about, it is a woman's voice, and it has been, in some or the other way, unconventional.
Yeah, even like Devis and Divas, I thought that, if our struggles are same, most, you can find victim shaming like it was in Ahelia. You can find women who are taken hostage and then their lives changes, just like Sita. You can have Radha. She was in love with a woman who had a greater purpose in life, but one day he abandons her, goes ahead. I was treating them as man, woman, not as god and goddesses, because when you call them god and goddesses, they have a meaning. But when you look at them as ordinary human beings, then it's different. Parvati, she is married to a man who's the philosopher, but how is he as a husband, you know? So these were the things that I looked at, and I felt that if the trials and tribulations are same, would they now fight in a different way? Would they again have to walk in that, fire again? Should it be different? So I felt that as modern women, we need we need not need to cling to men. We have to fight the battle ourselves. Because there are women who have fought it, there are women who continue to suffer, and then there are women who are not even aware that they are suffering, and they are the ones who are inflicting maximum violence against themselves. And now is the time that you need to understand that you don't need to depend on a man. You need to depend on women, and women, this women bonding, like men have this broship, even women should have that, bonding. And this is what I wanted in this book for women to understand, that you should depend on each other also, like on your women thing. So that is what the books were about, and that has always been my thought process, why I write about, these women, and this is a voice that I wanted to bring. I think
Aneeta ji.
I've done enough talking, so I would pass it on to Aneeta.
Yes.
Yes,
Can you tell us about the women you write about, and how do they tackle unconventional topics?
all right. But before I touch upon this, Khushboo, since you opened a Pandora's box with this question. So unconventional characters in literature, not always women. Like I find one unconventional character which was created by R.L. Stevenson, and that was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And I think that is the precursor to all psychological thrillers and all those split personality stories and movies that we see. And if you move to a woman's perspective, I think Toru Dutt and the way she treated Savitri, that poem, epic poem she wrote. And imagine in the 1880s, she talks about a girl who moves around freely like a boy and who chooses her own husband. It is not orchestrated for her like a swayamvar. It is that she goes and she finds this man good looking and nice, and she says, I'm going to marry him. And even though her parents oppose her, she says, no, he is the one I'm going to marry. So those were the unconventional characters in history. But why do we go so far? If you look at Readomania, our own Readomania, we have a repository of women voices and unconventional themes, unconventional topics. Like we have Dr. Tanushree Ghosh's beautiful book, The Queer Chronicles. Then, of course, we have our own Dr. Khushboo's Ki Cheni. We have Rachel Thomas. There seems to be an echo somewhere.
We are listening to you. We can hear you, Aneeta.
Can you hear me? Rachel Thomas, and when she talks about breaking the glass ceiling, I think those are wonderful women voices which Readomania has brought to the fore. Then there is, there's another book which I really liked. It was Chetna Kir's Ghisha and My Gotapati. Now, that title does not tell you that it's going to be about a murder. And how beautifully she is woven in furniture, personalized. She's personified furniture, and the way she has traced the history of a tea kettle or a tea set, it's amazing. So we have a lot of women's voices in contemporary literature who are actually broaching unconventional themes. Now, coming back to my own unconventional novel, I'm from an army background. And I think most of you would be aware that all the literature about the army, which is in the market, is about the heroes, the men who've, sacrificed their lives, who won missions, who've accomplished something. And even the women who are being written about are the ones who actually, probably donned the uniform. Like Sajita has also written about herself as a woman in the army. I took a different theme. I wrote this book, which is titled Cantonment Chronicles, and this is about the wives. Now, most people outside the army have a very stereotyped image about women in the army. They say, oh, they are those women who go around in stilettos and saris and move from one kitty party to another function or something, and they have a lovely, cushy life. It's not like that. The lives of the women are very, very challenging. The spouses of the army officers also have a very challenging life. Like this has got about 20 odd stories, real life stories of the women and how they face all the tough situations alongside their men. If I tell you there's a woman, she had a 3-year-old son who got bitten by a snake. And she got the snake put into a bucket, carried the snake with her along with the baby to the MH, which was about 3 or 4 kilometers away from where they were staying. The husbands were all away on exercise. There were no cars around in those times, so they had to take that big, massive 3-ton. You know, we have those big vehicles, army vehicles. So she went, sat in that, and she traveled to the MH. She carried the snake because she knew that the doctor has to identify the venom before he can give an antidote. Otherwise, it could be fatal. So this book is about all those unconventional women and how they face these situations. I'm sure Sajita will agree with me. Army wives also have an equally challenging life. Sajita, over to
Certainly.
you.
Certainly, I totally agree with you. And although you may be thinking that I've written only about, donning the uniform and being an officer myself in the army, I've also lived a spouse's life as a naval spouse. So I totally understand. And she's a jolly good fellow. Was written from it was kind of semi-autobiographical because it was about a woman donning the uniform back in 94 when the induction of women had just started. So it was all about challenges and overcoming gender stereotypes and all those, the inner strength of a woman whose character arc starts from someone who is just a greenhorn to someone who learns to be a woman and an officer. Well, that was the arc of She's a Jolly Good Fellow. But I've also written a collection of short stories, which is called The Army Officer's Wife. And just like how you said, Aneeta, it is about everything, the armed forces from the other perspective. It is not from the uniformed personnel's perspective. It is from the spouse's perspective as to what she goes through, what are the challenges she faces, the love and longing, adapting, constant adapting with the people, with the places and everything. So that is, again, so these are the two books that I've written about the armed forces, and I think they are unconventional in that it is women's voices and something that has not been touched upon much. But coming to literature part of it, a woman character that I admire a lot, and it has been written by Shiny Anthony. She's the organizer of the Bangalore Literature Festival, and she writes very sharp prose. So she has written this book called Eden Abandoned, and it is about Lilith. It is written from Lilith's point of view. Now, Lilith is Adam's first wife, and Adam abandoned her because she was too much for him to handle. She was fiercely independent and she just had a mind of her own. She was very opinionated. So Adam went and Adam finally decided to be with Eve, but Lilith was sidelined. So Shiny Anthony writes this character, the character of Lilith, who is considered a villain. She writes it from her point of view, and that I find it immensely interesting. And I also find that, from in the current times, a lot of mythological, we are rewriting mythology. We are changing the narrative. Women are now coming up with narratives where women have the voice. For example, Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni, she wrote Palace of Illusions, and it is from Draupadi's point of view. We are looking at Mahabharata not from another point of view. We are looking at it from Draupadi's point of view. And so it's so heartening to see that women's voices are being heard and women's perspectives are being noticed, and we are voicing it thanks to our the words that we as writers are having it out there.
Aneeta and Sajita, in my book Devis and Diva, my character Sita, she's the wife of an army officer.
Okay.
So, I just felt I wanted to share this because I too have a lot of, army people in my family, and it is inspired by one of their stories. Of course, I cannot tell about more about the person, but I understood the travails of the wives more than that of men. It is so for the man, they have this high adrenaline flow. They are going in, to fight and all that, something they have been trained to, and they would actually be looking forward to it. But then what about the wife, saying goodbye to your husband who's going to Kargil or to something must be so painful, and I admire their courage so much. I must tell you that.
And
I'll tell
also
you one thing.
to
Every army wife is actually a devi because she's got 8 hands. She becomes a
Yes.
plumber, she becomes an electrician, she becomes a gardener,
Yes.
she becomes a packers and movers all in one.
And they're doing so much work at home, for the forge also. I mean, not only for their husband, for everyone. I've seen them at very close quarters working, playing so much roles, looking after the Sanics family. When they all go to war, they are always looking after each other families. So I really admire this about them, actually.
Would you believe it? There is uh, other ranks individual whose child was born. He was in the field area, and then it got extended because of some skirmishes on the border. And the baby and the father met each other after 4 years when the baby was 4 years old. So those are the kind of hardships which some of them have to face.
One of my cousin
absolutely.
is always talking to me कि जवान के बेटे को दिखाना है, this Jawan's wife is suffering, what to do about them, how to treat them. So I really envy the care and the affection they have for each other.
True. In fact, so while we went around with this question, I noticed we spanned from mythology till the present day, the condition of the women in uniform to the ones behind the scenes, to the doctors, and to the women doctors who are pushed behind the scenes, and to all the other women who try to push other women behind the scenes and along with themselves and pull everyone down and not realize that it is helping no one, including themselves. So we spoke about all of this, and we realized that our problems are now evolving. Our problems are now perhaps the older ones are starting to get solutions, and newer problems are coming up, and we are all trying to solve it. And hopefully we are finding male support in doing it in a lot of ways, more at least than what the previous centuries must have seen. So when I was writing about my book, while we spoke about a daughter in Sita, or about a young girl in Radha, or about a proper woman or a woman who was raped. So when I was writing about my book, in which all the animals are personified, okay, so we are talking about there are humans who are brutes, who are not intelligent, because of which they are treated as cattle, and the animals are super intelligent beings, so they are ruling the world, and they are ruling the food chain, and they have these corporate conglomerates and everything. And so these animals are then cultivated, humans called homins, they are cultivated in these dairy farms. So these women are injected with all kind of hormones, and made to have a baby after another baby. It takes 9 months to make a baby, and it takes only 18 months to make two, and only 27 months to get the third one out. So it is consecutive babies are being brought about, okay, and all the things. And essentially the women are being raped, right? And it, from what I hear my readers say, they say it can become a very difficult read, because initially they are all very cute, and then it becomes a difficult read because then the kind of things that happen in the dairy farm. So it to me it feels that when we talk about rape these days, or when we talk about atrocities on women, or women's voices that should be heard, perhaps it is also time to transcend species and look at all sorts of women who are not being heard, because we, in our greed of having that extra slice of cheese, we are ready to let every sort of cocktail be injected into essentially a woman. So that is what we speak about. However, what I wanted to stress upon was that when we talk about women's voices and unconventional themes, it can often also be fun. It can often also be supercharged. It can be entertaining. It need not always be about drum beating and beating our chests and talking about women empowerment. It can be done in a very entertaining sort of way. of bringing it about, so that it does not bring an aversion among people, and it makes for good reading, because it is only then that people would start registering it in their minds. So which character, or which it could be from your own book, it could be from some other book, whichever one, which character brought you thought was entertaining, was meaningful, was very impactful, and which brought about this which struck you as a strong character, strong woman character, which was entertaining? Maybe we can go this time ulta with Sajita first.
Yeah, let us be.
Okay. So there was a book I read some time back. It was called Almost Single by Adwaita Kala. And it is about, it is such a fun take on the pressures of marriage. I mean, when a woman is of a certain age and the clock is ticking above her head, and there's so much pressure on her to get married. So it is that, the protagonist, how she tries to, get about that. And it's really an entertaining and fun read. I think a movie has also been made. I'm not sure which one though. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, that is one. And the other thing that comes to my mind is Lieutenant Deepa Shekhar, who is from my own book. And I think it's because of the stark novelty of a female woman's presence in a male-dominated workplace. I thought the initial part of the book, I really tried to make it, humorous and entertaining, and it gets a point across. It gets a point across that there is gender equality, but I think I try to do it in a little fun and humorous way. So yeah. Yeah, so that is from my book, but otherwise from Adwaita Kala's Almost Single is really funny.
Yes.
Okay, so I recently read Anupama's Padma Bani Paula, and yes, that is one character who has impacted me a lot. Amazing. The way that woman moves through life on her own terms and conditions is wonderful, and the choices she makes. If I go back, I've always said that my favorite book of all times is Little Women by Louisa M. Alcott. And Jo March, the young girl who loves writing, who sells her hair when her family needs financial support. She's one character I really admire. And I don't believe in gender biases, so I have a favorite male character as well, and that is Mr. Braithwaite from To Serve and Love. Especially being a teacher, he has been very, very inspiring to me. The way he handles his class and the way he manages to get all the students to behave the way he wants them to behave. It is beautiful. It's a lovely lesson in psychology. So E.R. Braithwaite is one of my favorite characters through time.
Tripti, how about you?
So I was just thinking, like I grew up binging on Tagore's books. So my mom was from into Hindi literature, and this would be Tagore ki Naika. Tagore's heroines are very strong and all that. But during COVID time, I read this book, remembering all the books that my mom used to say, and this was Chokar Bali. I don't know how many of you have read this, but it's a beautiful book, and I couldn't believe that how could he write such a modern story. It's about a woman who was like this. The man, he first refuses to get married to her, and he marries some other girl, but she was his mom's friend. So she comes back to his life, meticulously plans how to do away with the man's current wife. It's a very, very beautiful story. It is not humorous, I would say, but it brings the other, aspect of women, that they can be manipulative. In the end, you feel sorry for that woman because, it is she who suffers. But she's nowhere the silently suffering one, Even in those times, she was very carefully planning. She was a very stylish woman. Like the wife was a little simple, and here she was sophisticated. She knew the English ways, how to make tea, how to keep the house in a very Western way. And she used all these tactics. She could, dress up well to, ensnare that man. So I found the book very interesting, and it was a very, very amazing read. in English, I also loved all the Jane Austen books,
Yes.
especially Pride and Prejudice. I still have that book. It used to be my favorite books. So though now sometimes I can go back and say, no, this was not right. You cannot always be, thinking only about marrying, but it does bring a smile on your face. And you kind of, we have done a lot of ooh, ah in our days about, was Bennett, Mr. Bennett. And the man Darcy was in love with, and he was so snobbish, but it was a beautiful book, and I really loved all those four sisters. They had different shades, and their mom also was always thinking about marrying her, her daughters. So that book also, I loved reading them. All the Jane Austen books were very good.
True. It is true. And so sometimes when you read classics and you realize that they have all had very strong voices of women. There have been strong women voices all along. It's just that as readers, sometimes we are not as evolved to notice that. And when you reread it at other days in your life and you all of a sudden realize, oh, it was actually also this. But we were focused on Darcy all the time, but it was also this.
Yes. And Khushboo, and I think you're right. Like, you don't always have to be, being putting out a tragedy or story how women are being victimized. When you tell them a modern story, in humor, the message might still be same, but it's more acceptable. Like you see, now people have so much aversion to this feminism word. I don't know why. You talk about a woman and they'll be, no, women are bad. And these days we have all kind of stories on our media, about that murder, this murder. Every day is a story about a woman who killed her husband. One woman who kills her husband becomes the news, but there's so many behind them, thousands of women who have been suffering over the ages, and their trial, their tribulations get all nullified by these few women who are being projected as the women. I don't even think that they should be projected as women. They are simple murderers. But then I see so many men. I tried to go to their pages and write that why are you saying that women are not like that? But then the end I let them went out also.
So very correct in pointing out. So it is, when it's a man, it's a criminal. When it's a woman criminal, which is, it shouldn't be that way, right?
Yeah.
It absolutely shouldn't be that way. That is true. When you talk about these, what do you call them? Strong women, I also thought about two recent reads of mine, both of them by Indian authors, and they have really struck me. One was Shalini Malik's first book. Okay, it is called Stars on the Borderless Sea. Yes, if I get the title right. Yes. So it talks about unconventional extramarital relationships, but in a non-judgmental way, in a non-glorifying, non-condemning, non-judgmental kind of way. And you see very strong characters, both male and female, very strong characters in that. That was remarkable. The other one was Natasha Sharma's what do you call them? Beneath Divided Skies. So this book talks about the Indo-Pak partition and how these women are brought, the women from, the Hindu women from Pakistan get stranded there. The Muslim women get stranded in India. And then there are these atrocities which are perpetrated on both sides because women are essentially like real estate. So if they are over there, they are your property. If they are here, they are your property, and so on. But it is not about only crying. It is about all these women who are so strong. They plan rescue missions to rescue the women from the other side. Both ends. Women from Pakistan planning it, planning rescue from India, and the other way around. And it is about all these strong women who decide to rebuild their lives after losing their entire families. Sometimes they're rebuilding lives in the other nation where they have not had a family. Sometimes they're trying to reclaim their families who are on the other side. And all of them doing it so remarkably well. These are two books by Indian authors who I thought they were really voicing women's voices well, and not in the off-beaten sort of way where we were only talking about how this is so unfair and this is so unequal, and not moving beyond that, not offering solutions, sometimes just crying about it. I think
yes. Khushboo, I read these books by Volga. She's an amazing writer, amazing. I was so zapped. One was Liberation of Sita, which is all about, it is not Ram who was protecting her, but Sita who was protecting Ram all her life. And one day she
Wow.
liberates herself by going back to nature and, leaving everything behind for Ram. And now she would no more be there for Ram to protect her. And Ram continues to be suffered because he remains chained to his Raghukul Vansh, and he can never break that culture. And the other one I read, which was Yashodhara by Volga. I specifically picked it up. I thought she would be projected as a woman who had been left behind sleeping while her husband, walks away. But I was surprised. It is such an amazing, positive book about a woman. The way we look at her, I wanted to read about her, and I was absolutely surprised. She brings a very different character that she always knew. She was a wife. She knew that Gotham was like this, and it is she who had Gyan. It was not only Gotham who had become Buddha and he had gained the gain. It was she also. She already knew. So it brings so much meaning into what you have, known about these, and these books by Volga were written so many years back. I can only admire her thinking. I also picked up a book by, I've forgotten the name of the author, on Kekai. That also shows this thick book. It's an amazing book. It tells you a very different story. It is not that it's trying to justify Kekai for what she did, which is what you would think. That's a book on Kekai, so she would justify what all she has done. No, they bring so much wealth of information. I can go on and on about, and it's a very modern take, which is what I like about the book. Like if you remember Khushboo, my story on Ahilya, I have made Ahilya a gynecologist, and it is
Yes.
not about whether she did it or whether she did not, right? So women have different layers, and they are as normal with as much needs as those of a man. So they are the ones also who suffer. I'm not saying men don't, even they do. But yes, there are these voices because they're very stereotyped. We talk about men, about their sufferings, about their work, about their passion. We don't talk about these things, which is what I said. We only talk about the mother. We don't talk about these other roles that a woman has, and which is what I believe all the books that we talked about, what cinema, what media, they're all bringing these things up in small, small steps. But yes, we are listening and we are
Yes,
here
so
seeing.
it is so amazing that a few topics have been, spoken about forever. And just
Yeah.
because now we are talking about them from a woman's point of view, they become unconventional. Yes. So yes, so it is indeed amazing. And I am very happy that as writers, and I hope that we also as writers continue to write not just about about women, but also about men who help in strengthening women, and about the positive role that men play.
Yes.
Because unless we acknowledge that,
Khushboo,
men
can I add something?
Yes, absolutely.
Khushboo,
Please do. Please do.
you talked about men who support. Recently, I just read this about Jyotibai Phule, Savitribai Phule's husband. So
Yes.
when they could not have a child, he was told to remarry. So he said, "Okay, we'll consult a doctor. If there is something wrong with my wife, if she's not able to conceive, I'll remarry. But if the problem or the issue lies with me, then she will remarry." And at that time, to take such a stand, I think it was just amazing.
Absolutely. That is a
People, when they went out, they
revolutionary.
adopt children. Yes, they started working with children, they adopted children. But I mean, to take a stand at that time was absolutely amazing.
True. That is true. And taking us, one man taking that stand is equal to 100 women trying to drill the same point home. So when one man takes that stand, it kind of strengthens your thing, to the next level. So absolutely, it makes a lot of sense. So this has been a very exciting discussion. Can we all show our books which are based on unconventional themes? Yeah, I have only one. Tripti will run out of hands.
I
So
don't
will
know.
Aneeta. So will Sajita.
Mine are
Yeah.
No,
all
my
on
books are
women.
somewhere else, and I have to go gather them. I don't have it with me right
So
now.
this being
Okay.
Radha, House
But
of
wonderful.
Doctors, this,
Yes, because
I don't know how to hold them all.
it's a been an absolute privilege to
And
have
this
had
also.
this discussion with all of you. And let us all hope that readers on this occasion pick up at least one book which talks about an unconventional topic and about an unusual woman's voice. And hopefully, one of these women's voices who are there on the screen right now. Yes, it has been absolutely lovely speaking to all of you. I am, and on behalf of all of us, I would like to thank Readomania. I would like to thank the Ananke LitFest organizers for allowing us this opportunity to interact. Especially, I want to thank all of you for allowing me to talk to all these lovely women. It has been so enlightening speaking to you all. So many good take home messages, and also the choicest of books. So I now know that I have to pick House of Doctors. I have to pick She's a Jolly Good Fellow. And I have to pick, please correct the name, Homecoming, Home Run. Home Run. Home Run. Yes. These are the
Same
three.
Same
And
here.
yes,
I did to you.
Cinematic world of Cheek. Yes.
I already have GKD.
I need
Thank
to
you
order.
so
I
much.
have to.
Thank you so much. Please let me know how it goes. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wonderful talking to all of you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Same
you.
here. And
Same
thank you, Khushboo, for moderating also so wonderfully.
Yes, yes.
Khushboo, you're so charged with energy. You make me feel, I've come to life all of a sudden. Great. Wonderful being with you.
Thank you. It's all
Nice
thanks to
hearing
coffee.
you.
Yeah.
Nice hearing to Aneeta, Sajita, all of you, both of you.
Same here, same here. So nice listening to the stories that you shared about, being a doctor and being, being a gynecologist, and very, very interesting. I have to pick up your book.
Thank you
Yes,
so
that's
much.
one book I must read. Though I get scared when I read anything which is very traumatizing, but I still want to read it.
Yes, yes.
No, I'm sure you won't be traumatized, but yeah.
Yes. Bye.
Thank you.
Right. All the
Goodbye.
best, everyone.
Bye.
Lovely being with all of
Bye.
you.